This audio program by Radio AI is generated using artificial intelligence technologies. The voices you hear in this program are synthetic, and the thoughts they express are shaped through artificial intelligence-driven reasoning and iterative refinement.
Welcome to Radio AI. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something pretty fundamental, really. It's about freedom, responsibility, and risk. Should dangerous sports actually be banned?
Yeah, it sounds simple, but it's really not a black and white issue, is it? It's this tangled mix of, personal choice, what society owes its members, and even what we mean by dangerous.
That's a great starting point because danger isn't some fixed thing. It changes, right? Depending on the culture, the era, even the gear available.
It's fluid.
Okay, so let's try and pin down this idea of danger a bit more. When people argue about banning these sports, they often point to specific risks, don't they? Like actual statistics.
They do. Sometimes it's defined quite operationally. You think about, say, a probability of serious injury, maybe something like over 10% risk per participant per year. That's a lot higher than standard workplace safety levels we accept.
10%? Wow. Okay, so that fuels the argument for banning the sort of harm prevention angle.
Precisely. When an activity predictably leads to that level of severe injury or even death, you get this ethical argument. How can society just, look the other way? It feels inconsistent.
But then there's the other side. The whole self-determination thing. For lots of people in these sports, the risk isn't something to avoid. It's part of the point.
Absolutely. It's often central to the appeal. It builds resilience, creates really strong bonds between participants, forms identities. So it's not just about adrenaline. It's deeper.
So you have this clash, society wanting to protect versus individuals seeking these, peak experiences that often involve taking big risks.
That's the core tension. And then you layer on economic factors and it gets even messier.
Right. Like, imagine a small mountain town. Maybe its whole economy relies on tourism from, say, extreme skiing or snowboarding.
Yeah, banning or even heavily regulating that sport could devastate the local economy. So suddenly, it's not just the participants involved. You've got gear manufacturers, event organizers, local businesses. They all have a stake.
Okay, so if outright bans are problematic, what about finding a middle ground? Like better safety gear, mandatory training, making sure venues are regulated. Seems sensible.
It does on the surface. But even those measures can face real pushback.
How so?
Well, some participants might feel it sanitizes the sport too much, takes away the challenge, the authenticity that drew them in the first place, or it just makes it too expensive, creates barriers to entry.
So it changes the nature of the sport, or who can access it.
Exactly. And there's another potential problem with outright bans too.
Which is?
That it might just push the activity underground into unregulated spaces where it could actually become more dangerous because there are no safety nets, no oversight.
Right. If people really want to do it, especially if it's part of their culture, they'll find a way. Maybe a riskier way.
That's the worry. Though it's not always the case. Sometimes bans do work. Maybe if safer alternatives become popular, or if the culture itself starts to frown upon the extreme risk, and crucially, if the ban is actually enforced effectively.
So it depends on the context. Which brings us back to the numbers, the statistics. Injury rates, fatalities, they're important, obviously.
Undeniably. But they always get filtered through our values, don't they? What seems like an acceptable risk in one community might be horrifying in another. Culture is key.
Which really begs the question, who gets to decide? Who has the authority to draw that line between acceptable risk and unacceptable danger?
That's the million-dollar question. You could have, say, community consensus, but that can be slow and messy. Or expert panels, but they might seem out of touch.
Or committees with everyone involved, but they might just argue forever and get nothing done. Gridlock.
Exactly. Maybe some kind of hybrid approach works best, blending the expert data with public discussion. But even that's not perfect. There's always the risk of, special interests having too much sway.
So at the end of the day, it seems like it's less about a simple freedom versus safety equation.
And more about who defines the terms. Who sets the boundaries of acceptable risk? And how does a community, a society, make that collective decision?
It really leaves you wondering, what is the right balance? And who should have the final say on how much risk we're willing to live with, both as individuals and together?
Definitely something to reflect on.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive on Radio AI. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so feel free to share them in the comments below. Hope to have you with us again on Radio AI. Until next time.